Hello and welcome to Enchantment of Eternity's review for Star Trek Lower Decks. That's Season 3, Episode 7. I believe this episode is called A Mathematically Perfect Redemption. This video is a part of a series of videos where I review episodes of Lower Decks. So I have to start with a spoiler warning for Star Trek Lower Decks up to Season 3, Episode 7. If you have not seen up to this point, you will not want to watch this video, otherwise some things will be spoiled for you. So, this is a really interesting one. So, I actually had to, this is one of the episodes after I watched it, I had to, sit with it and think about it before I, realized whether or not I liked it or not. It kind of threw me for a loop because it is a unique kind of episode where it focuses on a character who we've only seen once previous, and basically is a whole episode about her, and our main characters don't really appear until the end. And I kind of like that format. I think I like stepping outside the ordinary and doing something original, especially if you have a whole episode where the viewpoint character is not our normal cast member. This is something Voyager has done several times. And I like that they revisited Peanut Hamper from I believe it was the season 1 finale. Or was it? Yeah, it was the season 1 finale. And because I thought this was, it wasn't like a really great character. I love the Exocoms from TNG, first of all, so I'm glad they had the Exocoms reappear. And it was funny that they chose this to be kind of like a spoiled brat type character. I remember really liking the joke in the season 1 finale when which we saw in the previously on, which also threw me for a loop because Lower Decks usually don't do previously on. And with the scene that they showed where they're like, oh, the perfect person to save the day. Oh, Peanut Hamper, you can fit. Yeah, you get to save the day. And she's like, no, that's all right. I'm gonna pass on that one. Which I thought was a really funny joke. And here they actually show what happened after she left. Now, I think, again, this is where all my mixed feelings come in, because I'm very mixed about this episode, because it kind of undoes the joke by actually showing what happened to Peanut Hamper afterwards and making it really serious. In fact, the majority of this episode, I feel, wasn't really that funny. It was kind of trying to be serious. It wasn't until I think the end where they really just took a really, really hard left turn to a really over-the-top silly comedy. But most of the episode, there were jokes throughout, of course, but it was mostly seemed to be telling a dramatic character story of Peanut Hamper dealing with abandoning her people and not wanting to be punished for what she did. And so it was interesting. She lands on a pre-warp civilization, which we learn later is actually more of a post-warp civilization. But as far as she knows, it's a pre-warp civilization. Lands there, and is really kind of snooty and stuck up, being calling them a backwards people. And at first they're all very scared of her and don't really know what to make of her, except for the main village leader dude, who sees her as a sign from her ancestors, they say, instead of the gods. Which actually makes more sense when you find out what their ancestors were a warp civilization, spacefaring civilization. And so, because at first I was like, how did I know what a machine is? But then when they revealed later on, I was like, oh, that makes sense now. Because at first I was confused how they even know what a machine was. They would have thought she was some kind of creature or monster or whatever. But yeah, so the village leader dude stuck up for her the whole time, and then the son was like very sort of skeptical of her, but then they kind of formed a bond. And I kind of, there was humor sprinkled in with that, with, Peanut and Hamper, like, earning the villagers' trust, like, using her replicators, because we know the Exocomp have replicators to make up stuff for the kids and to help the eggs hatch. And we got a few funny jokes about this world being... I thought that was a really interesting world, how every single animal... had wings, and the guy was like, well, of course they do, because he just knows this world. And she's like, well, of course not, it's not the huge. She says, so the dude, that's to portray her as a sort of pampered, spoiled teenage, aristocrat brat or something. But anyway, I'm thinking like Paris Hilton or something. But anywho, but then we seem to like get inside her head, like that her parents like kind of forced her into Starfleet, where she didn't really want to go and it wasn't her thing, and it really made you like develop this character a lot more, and got you into her mindset, and the romance with the son, how they were trying to like kiss and make out, and they didn't really know how to do it. Like, I don't know, I didn't find those scenes like hilarious, but it was kind of ridiculous. It was funny how ridiculous it was. It reminded me a bit of Avatar. I think this was poking fun of Avatar, but anyway, I like the joke about how there's a sky snake, and I was like, well, if everything in this world has wings, why don't you just call it a snake? Which I think is like a meta joke, and I think it applies to not just Star Trek, but a lot of sci-fi, where they put a word in front of an animal. If it's this is a blood, a Virgilian sea snake, or whatever they say, and it doesn't actually make any sense when they just say snake. So I did like that, like the calling out of it. But then we get the ending, where the scavengers show up, and they apparently tracked her there, and she like really finds redemption, and she calls for the Cerritos, and finds redemption and risking her life to do what she failed to do last time. This time, she had the opportunity to sneak on board the ship and destroy it and save everyone. She did, so she really redeemed herself. And then it was all undone with the ending that showed that she had actually called for the scavengers to come, and because she actually hated it at this place and was just faking liking these people and wanted to get the hell out of there, and wanted to fake saving everyone in order to not face reprisals from Starfleet. So it was all part of her evil plan to get off the damn planet and not have to go to prison. And then we find out like that she's like super evil, and she even gets thrown in that same evil computer lab at the Daystrom Institute that we saw last season. In fact, we see the Jeffrey Combs computer. Now, I have mixed feelings about this ending, but I think I'm leaning towards the more negative side, because here's the thing. It is funny. It's a subversion of expectations, because had they stuck with the actual redemptive arc, it would have been very cliche, very ordinary, and it was I think it's kind of like Lower Decks as a comedy show, to be like, ha ha, to really like undo everything and be like, oh, you think this is a redemption arc? Nah, fuck it, she's actually just evil the whole time, and there you go, she was just faking. She's even worse than you think. But, and it's interesting, and I understand the instinct to want to do that subversion, not fall into the cliche, but it kind of renders the entire episode useless, because we spent like this whole episode, and they actually did a really good job of like exploring her redemptive arc and how she, and seeing her grow as a character, and then it just undo it all with one like scene, like 2 minutes towards the end of the episode, and say, actually, no, that was all bullshit, then why did I waste my time with this episode? If that was all bullshit, why did you show me 20 minutes of her character growth if you're just going to tell me at the end that that was all an act and it's all bullshit and nothing means anything anyway? So why did I waste my time? But I did find the ending hilarious, especially when she went to the evil computer lab and meets Jeffrey Combs' character from the last season, how they're like start laughing evilly because they're gonna team up apparently and become the super villain team, which I wouldn't mind seeing, by the way. And they go, hoo-ha, hoo-ha, and then all the other computers start laughing too. I was like, no, stop laughing. I thought that was hilarious. But yeah, I think they even bar like the undoing her entire redemptive arc, they also like really drastically changed her character in the last 2 minutes as well, because they portrayed her as like has this sort of Paris Hilton, spoiled, pampered, aristocratic type who doesn't really want to be in Starfleet. And by the end of this episode, they make her a super evil, super villain who does evil laughs. I mean, it is Lower Decks, so I give them a little bit more leeway. But again, you're going to show me an entire episode about a character growing and then just make her even more two-dimensional than she was to begin with. There's only so much leeway I can give a comedy, really. God, but that ending was hilarious. And the episode was interesting until they kind of undid it all and made it like a waste of time in the first place. So I don't know. My rating for the mathematically perfect redemption out of 10. When I started this review, I was going to give it a 6, but after talking through it and how that ending really, really like renders the entire episode useless, I'm going to give this a 5. 5 average. It was funny at parts, especially the end. The end I thought was particularly funny. And it was interesting at parts, and I like the world building they did with these bird people. So that's why that's what gets it up to a 5. But really, I think the ending, like that twist ending, I know they wanted to subvert expectations, but really it would have been better off sticking with the cliche. Because if they stuck with the cliche, then I wouldn't have this feeling like I just wasted my time watching this episode. I would have had a feeling like, it would have been cliche, but at least I would have seen like really well thought out character growth. And I think they could have had a different twist that was funny and maybe didn't go the direction that you thought, but one in which did not undo the entire purpose of the episode and render it useless. Then I might have given this episode like an 8 maybe, or a 7, depending on how good that other twist, hypothetical twist, would be. But this twist was just ruined the episode, really. I mean, again, well, not entirely, because the thing at the end was funny, and it was kind of funny how they, oh no, she's just pampered. She's just, the whole thing was an egg. But again, how I said, I had mixed feelings about it. But anyway, yeah, it's I think ultimately it's not a good ending. So that is it for my review for this episode. I shall be back next week and every week after to review this season of Lower Decks, so be sure to check out my channel for that. Also check out my channel as I do cover many more shows like House of the Dragon, Lord of the Rings, The Rings of Power, and all things Star Trek. So be sure to subscribe so you can keep up with all of that, and thanks a lot for watching.